Winemaking has a long and storied history in Europe, which could be considered perhaps as the capital of wine in the world. Like the rest of Europe, Malta also has a rich history in winemaking. And with us today, we have the CEO of Marsovin, Mr. Jeremy Cassar. Marsovin having been established over 100 years ago. Thank you very much for joining us today, Mr. Cassar.
Pleasure. Happy to be here.
I'd like to start off this conversation, or rather this interview, about with climate change. And I'd like to ask perhaps whether there has been, in the history of Marsovin, or from your experience as well, if you've noticed any impact on the quality of grapes or on winemaking in general in the Maltese Islands.
I can't say that climate change has impacted Malta that much as opposed to what it's done to the UK or to Germany or to Hungary, where they've seen their temperatures rising quite significantly over the years, to the point where their wines have improved significantly. And the British are producing good sparkling wine now. The German wines have always been relatively good. Now they're always getting better. And you can see that it is definitive that there's climate change and the effect of it in that part of the world. When it comes to Malta, there are occasional challenges due to climate. There's more climate variance. When we talk to our technical team at the winery, where we have a set of viticulturists and winemakers, one who's very well noted in Malta, Christine Cremona, who's been at this for 30 years on the island, who's qualified for a viticultural college in Italy, knows the situation very well. Having discussed this with him only just yesterday, was catching up on the latest, especially in this vintage. We've had heat waves when I was 15, 16. I remember summers of 40, 45 degrees. I mean, these heat waves in the summer have always been there. We haven't seen radical changes. A bit of less rainfall year to year. Occasional rainfall and a bit of hail at the end of May, which we seem to have escaped this year. Fingers crossed, which doesn't help the local indigenous varieties. But overall, our opinion is that there isn't anything radical about climate change in Malta. There are shortages of water from time to time, so one can qualify that as a bit of climate change. But then a year goes past and the rainfall doubles. So there's a variance. So if we want to qualify climate change as a variance, then there is a bit. But it's certainly not as radical as elsewhere. And also we're small. So we know it's like rain is forecasted, for example, for next week,
Exactly.
for example. All of a sudden the rain misses us because the island is very small, and that can just be a bit of luck or just the situation. But it's not as significant, the impact of climate change is not as significant as it is further north.
When we're talking about wines in Malta, the two best known grape varieties locally are the Gelosa and the Gargantina. What are their differences and perhaps the challenges associated with growing these grapes? And how did they come to be appreciated?
Well, let's put it this way. Well, they've been around for quite a long time. They're certified Vitis vinifera within the EU and worldwide. They're only planted in Malta. I'm sure that their roots go very far back, possibly tied to the Romans. There was a time when Maltese winemaking has been through all sorts of experiences over the last many hundreds of years. Fra Manuel de Vilhena was one of the first to praise Malta as an ideal vine growing region, and this is quoted even in the book written by De Soldanis, who studied Maltese agriculture, and it is noted that the country has a lot to offer when it comes to agriculture and to viticulture. Gelosa Gargantina have been around for a long time. They are indigenous to Malta. They are lower alcohol wines than the international noble varieties. So there are certain types of wines that you can produce with them. Having said that, it doesn't mean that they are not grape varieties which you can produce very good quality wines. It just depends what you're looking for and the style that you're looking for. For many years, the Gelosa Girgentina were only treated as wines which were their main purpose was for a light white and a light rosé. Over the years, we have worked very hard into sort of repurposing these varieties and trying to produce better quality wines. And so to the point where today we do produce a range of wines which are DOC certified wines. We have a variety, a wine called Primus, which is produced with Gelosa and Shiraz, and that is sun-dried prior to fermentation, prior to the whole winemaking process, and that gives us more body. With Gelosa as a red, you only, without drying prior to fermentation, you'll only get a medium-bodied wine. So there are ways and means with international winemaking practices that you can get a better quality wine. On the white with the Girgentina, you certainly can get very good acidity. One of the last varieties to be harvested in September, together with Cabernet Sauvignon, which is an anomaly almost. Again, lower alcohol wines, but works beautifully if you blend it with a Chardonnay or another wine which has perhaps higher alcohol, higher sugar levels, so that you can get a balance. So sometimes the varieties in Malta lack a bit of acidity. The Girgentina does not lack acidity. And that is an advantage it offers. Now, obviously, you have to work with what you've got. And when you work with it, it does offer interesting results.
I understand that last year scientists discovered 10 previously undocumented varieties of indigenous grapes here in Malta, with a potential for winemaking as well. Do you see the possibility of these being used in the future?
For me, it's early days. What we've seen is only very small productions of these wines. We haven't produced them ourselves. This is being done by government at this point in time. We'll follow it. If there's anything interesting that one can build on, we'll certainly be looking at it. It would be lovely to have another red variety which is Maltese indigenous. And we're going to see. You take it vintage by vintage, the wine business is very slow. From the moment you plant the vines until you get your first harvest, 3 years go past. From when you produce your wine and until the wine is ready, and if it's a premium wine, you have to wait another year or so. So 4, 5 years maybe if you until you release it on the market. So the conversation we're having now could mean that if there's something interesting, we would first of all need to graft and to send the budwood overseas for a nursery to graft this budwood onto their own vines and rootstock and produce the first set of whatever it may be. Then it needs to be planted, and then we need to get the first harvest. So
It'll be quite
it's an
a while.
interesting conversation to have now, because we don't really know whether there is something interesting out there. And I don't say that diplomatically. I don't know. I've tasted the first vintage, but you have to see the conditions in which the wine was produced, how it was harvested. We didn't do it, so it doesn't mean it wasn't done well, but it means that it's a very small quantity. Probably the vines are still a bit young. You have to see, and we're interested to see how this year performs, because then it could be something interesting. If there's something good that comes out, we could be looking at another Maltese variety on the market in 5, 6 years, 7 years time. But it takes that long.
I see. And what would you say are the biggest challenges that winemakers face here in Malta today? Is it the heat? Is it the pests? Is it perhaps something else?
The heat and the pests go hand in hand. So if you've got too much heat, sometimes you have too many pests. In principle, as a winery, we are the only organically certified producer in Malta. So we always lean towards organic wherever possible. But there are pests that do not respond to it, and you can end up losing everything. Does it mean that then you need to go really aggressive with some sort of heavy-handed pesticide? No. There are EU-approved standards, and the EU is the most restrictive on what you can use in your fields. In my experience, this is what we're allowed to use in the EU. Is much more restricted to the rest of the world. That's a good thing, but that doesn't mean there aren't challenges. We seem to manage. And so far, we know what nature's given us till today. You don't know what's coming. So that is the risky part of what we do. Because you are at the mercy. It's not an industrial product. It's an agricultural product. And agriculture means you've got to deal with the nature around you. So, as I said, we produce organically certified wines, which are tested and done exactly to the protocol. We have the team to get it done. We know what the challenges are, and we still manage to get it done, all in accordance with the protocol. So it's not easy, but it's not easy if you're in organic. If you're in non-organic, then it's not that difficult. So you've got to know what you're doing. It's like anything else. So if you've got the right viticulturists who can analyze and assess, treat at the right time, not over-treat, being very careful, accurate in the assumptions and in the implementation, then you should be okay. And this is sometimes some of the challenges which farmers find themselves in Malta that may not react in time if there's an issue, like very often happens with the Gelosa Grigantina, that right now, as we speak, at the end of May, is normally the most critical period for the Gelosa and Grigantina, because as you might note, at the end of May last year, we had a bit of heavy rain, some hail as well. There was the year we had one particular farmer lost all his Vermentino. It's about 3 years ago. He lost it all. Hail at the end of May. So that is something which we didn't used to suffer from that much before. But it's not every year, and it's occasional. And other regions around Europe have it far worse. And prior to all this conversation about climate change, France is often, and Burgundy and Bordeaux have often suffered from many issues in this April-May period, which is very serious. We have other issues, but they are less, they are manageable. Everything comes with a challenge, and certainly you've got to know what you're doing.
The agriculture sector in general, it's widely known that it requires certain support from the government. Is it the same for winemaking specifically? Is there enough support? Is more needed? And if more is needed, what kind of support should that be?
Well, I believe that should be supported on a cultural level. It should be supported in as many ways as possible. I tend to take the Italian strategic outlook that government and the whole country takes. So there's a collective support for viticulture and winemaking in Italy, right from the top to the bottom. I can't say the same for possibly other countries such as France and maybe one or two others that have over the years lost a tremendous amount of their consumer loyalty because they haven't invested in it. The Italians invested heavily in the promotion of the sector. It is an important part of the culture, and it is the right way to approach drinking wine, is to keep it within a cultural ambience. So that if you're going out to dinner with your friends, you have a nice bottle of wine. In Malta, I believe we need to carry on down this route. As being a Mediterranean country, producing wine is certainly in our history for many, many years now. Now that Maltese wine is sort of coming of age to the point whereby there are a number of wineries now in Malta, not all large, but some very small. In reality, it's all good for us. What we need is continued support and continued promotion. Supporting agriculture isn't a part-time, extra sort of idea. It is continuous. The agricultural challenges are continuous. It is not like an industrialized product. If you are dealing with challenges to do with nature, then those are not situations you can foresee and plan for. If you're an industrial product that buys raw materials from all over the world, everything is more or less forecastable because they're under human control, more or less. Whereas what we do locally, a large part of what we do to produce quality wines, the quality is created in the vineyard. If you have a challenge in the vineyard that is out of your control, then you could, if this is a situation of force majeure, you could end up losing your entire harvest. That can happen, and it has happened over the years, many countries around the world. So there is a strong element of risk that you're dealing with nature, because nature is in charge after all. When it comes to the winemaking aspect of it, certainly having continued support from government, from many entities that are showing that they are proud of locally produced wines, foods. We are a Mediterranean country. We are a bit behind in terms of our development of high quality agricultural products which find themselves on shelves or in restaurants, and certainly a lot has been done to push that, but there's still a long way to go. It's good to see good cheese producers coming up, charcuterie, a lot of small initiatives, but they start small and they grow. So continued support on the marketing aspect, the sustenance of the DOC and IGT protocol, which is the core standard which was put in place in 2007 by government, which both ourselves, Marsovin, and the farmers and the Camera Wines at the time were at the forefront of getting this protocol in place. It's very important that it continues to be supported because it is the backbone which certifies what Maltese wine is. That it's not down to the producer to decide. Certainly, the producer produces the style that he wants to produce, but the standards are dictated by the European Union approved protocol, and that is critical for us to have a structure whereby people can say, okay, the quality is guaranteed. It is common and has been around for many years. First certification was from my understanding, in Tokai in Hungary hundreds of years ago. Malta, it was introduced in 2007, so this is why I say we're fairly young in that respect, but we have a long way to go.
What about when it comes to competition with foreign wines?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there needs to be more of a push to buy local, so to speak?
There has been a push to buy local, and certainly that is growing. We saw one of the nice things that came out of COVID was the push to buy local. We need more of that. And buy local, I mean buy local, not just local wines. Certainly we would benefit on that front, but buy local, buy quality. So I don't just say, always express my opinion this way. Anything that's good, that's local, we should be giving it preference. Absolutely. Without any question. Because there's a lot of quality out there, and if you don't start supporting even small initiatives here and there, they won't grow. So our starting point should be, yes, we support buy local. It needs to be given more of a push. I understand the MTA is pushing on this front, and I encourage it to be even stronger. because this gives us real identity. It is a given in many Mediterranean countries, and Malta is still behind there, catching up, but I think a bit more investment um, and more exposure and more appreciation for quality Maltese produce, not just Maltese, has to be quality. Then more exposure to that, the more we will benefit as a country and be prouder of what we're able to do.
When you compare Malta to countries on mainland Europe, when you look at the vineyards, for example, let's take the vineyards as a key example here. On the mainland, you've got large sprawling fields just full of vines as you're driving through. And in Malta, obviously, we don't have that kind of land space available. Malta is smaller as a country. My question is this. Do you think the fact that, first of all, are there any challenges because of this? Does the winemakers face more challenges because of the separated fields? And secondly, does it give it a kind of a sort of niche value to it as well, in the sense of, because the vineyards are smaller by scale, it gives it a sort of niche value for tourists, sort of thing. Do you think there's something there to that as well?
Well, yes. I mean, we have to compare ourselves to other small islands, right? So there's no point comparing ourselves to Tuscany and Sicily. Land is scarce over here. So if you compare yourself to a small Greek island, you compare yourself to a small Portuguese or Spanish island, then you're comparing like with like in terms of the challenges on size and volume. So, and also, I suppose you could put price in there as well. Certainly, getting hold of land is very challenging in Malta. So a lot of the vineyards which we own, we didn't buy them in the last so many years. We bought them 30, 40 years ago, or even more than that. But certainly it's for a wine producer to start producing his own grapes from his own estates today, from his own property, is very expensive. At 100,000 euros a tumolo, that's, from my understanding, is almost the equivalent of buying top grade property for vine growing in Barolo. So it's very expensive, and that may not be anything special in Malta. Certainly there are other ways of getting land. There's the government land and there are private land for which you could lease out. But generally speaking, people aren't too happy to let go of their land. So that can be a challenge for young farmers. And here I always encourage the government to assist the young farmers, because without the young farmers coming through, there are many farmers which are going to retire and have been over the last number of years, and more will continue to retire. If we don't help and encourage young farmers to be able to plant their own vineyards and assist when they need the help and how they need it, of course, everything above board and encouraging the use of European funds, but let's continue to assist. Let's show the glass is half full, not half empty, because it's already hard enough when you get into the field and you have to deal with Mother Nature. Having a bit more support from government on viticulture is always beneficial. It's, as I said, it's not a part-time idea. It's a continuous strategy which you've got to keep going year in, year out. So I really believe that. And so we always have said this for decades. We've been speaking in this way. Supporting the farmers is front and center to the viticultural policy. If we have the grapes and we get a bit of assistance as wineries, in my opinion, and I can speak as Marsovin, to encourage sort of this buy Maltese concept, even if it's not just some wine, but overall, it draws attention towards it, which is correct, because we are in Malta, we are promoting the efforts and the work of the Maltese, and if people at least know about them, they can assess, they can try them, and they can make up their own minds.
This fits into the whole issue that the country is facing with regards to a labor shortage as well. obviously in a slightly different sense.
Hmm.
But could we perhaps see more automation in the
A little bit
sector?
more, yeah, you can get a little bit more. Certainly in bottling facilities, I mean, to a certain extent. In the vineyards, it's hard. Robotic harvesters are very expensive and they're not that advanced as things stand. I think there's still a way to go. I'm not talking about harvesters for fruit and vegetables, I'm talking about vineyards.
Hmm.
So it's different.
Okay.
They do exist, but they're still far behind. So automation, as always, will come much later than anybody else, as Malta tends to follow many years later. And if opportunities arise to automate, why not? Certainly there are people working on it, and
It's needed as well, you think, in the
I
sector?
think it's needed because it's difficult to find people. It's difficult to find the right people. We use our own viticulturists with the knowledge that we have. Finding people is very hard. Almost every person that is interested in working in the viticulture with us, that can do it, we tend to employ them. So if anyone's looking to work in viticulture, we're happy to look at them because we are planting more vineyards, and we've just planted another 10 tumuli of organic for an organic estate, which is for white wine, a white wine estate.
So you have expansion
And
plans in that case?
sure, absolutely, yeah. So
Locally?
even though things are tough from finding people, we never give up. And that's the spirit to which we approach things. We believe in what we're doing. We're convinced that we are competitive with wines from all over the world, and we're proud of what we do. And I say it with absolute humility, because purely from the perspective of passion and history and heritage that we have the right people. We employ 2 full-time viticulturists and 2 full-time winemakers, and they all work very well as a team, and that is quite a large team to have, as we produce 60% of all of Malta's wines. So we need a technical team to take us forward. So with this courage that we take on initiatives to see what else can be done, we're 107 years old, and we plan to be around for as many years as possible.
You mentioned expansion plans. Do you have any, perhaps, plans to expand into foreign markets as well? Or more than...
We have expansion plans locally in terms of the investments that we make. Investment to expand overseas, perhaps trying to get a bit more export. We don't work at it actively. We tend to have an underproduction for the local market already as it is. We tend to try to work as close as possible with our clients. In Malta, we supply a restaurant. You're expected to have wine for them the whole year round. And rightly so, they don't appreciate it when you come October, November, Christmas is around the corner and you've run out. It's not our fault. There aren't enough grapes as it is, and the demand is greater than the supply. So that's okay in the short term, just as long as you can remain competitive and you don't need to increase your prices too much. Certainly playing the market and being well placed and having the right wines for the right quality for our restaurants, which are always getting better and better in Malta. We've got to be able to give Malta priority over the export, which is what we do. That's our position, is that our expansion has come into a new winery which we're close to completing. In a few months' time it should be ready, but that's another story to itself.
I'd like to end on one final point. During an interview with WhosWho a few years ago, you said that when it comes to promoting the region, it's not about how good our brand looks or how we represent Malta, but about how Malta can be perceived out there as a wine producer.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically saying that it's not enough to just have one really good producer, it's the region itself which matters. Do you think Malta has started to make more of a name of itself since then?
I think not yet, but I am starting to feel in the last year a bit more interest. Don't forget, we're very small, so we're almost insignificant in the wine world. But the fact that I think the quality is always getting better, there are always challenges. I do believe that there is a bit more interest, and it's coming along. I mean, only recently we had Decanter Wine Magazine visit my winery just last week, and so the timing of this interview is quite interesting. And I felt that the feedback was very positive. So I can't say there's been an avalanche of change, but as I said, the wine business is very slow, and even to gain a reputation around the world, it takes time. And let's not forget, we're very small. We need to talk to people in the wine world which know what they're talking about and appreciate quality, because there's only one way for Malta to go forward. We're small, we can't compete on volume, so let's just compete on quality. And that's how I see it. There's no other way.